Hi guys, thanks for tuning in to another episode of Nuggets News. Today we welcome back special guest Jakob from Hermetica, Bitcoin-backed stablecoins. We're going to be chatting all things Bitcoin DeFi, stacks, what's next for them. So welcome back, mate.
Yeah, good to see you again.
I think it's about a year since you were on last time. So maybe just start off for those that didn't watch that interview and just give them the overview of what Hermetica is doing, Bitcoin-backed stablecoins, and we'll talk about the latest news.
Yeah, absolutely. So at Hermetica, we're building a Bitcoin-backed stablecoin, USDh. We couple a spot position of Bitcoin with a short on the futures market. So you essentially lock in the dollar value of Bitcoin. That's how you can think of it. And then we issue that on chain on Bitcoin L1 and on Bitcoin L2. There's a yield component to it. We're short the futures markets. We're collecting the funding rate on the perp markets, and we pass on that yield to folks that stake their stablecoin. So you can come to our website Hermetica.fi with your USDH, or you can buy it on Hermetica.fi and then stake it and receive the funding rate yield, which since launch, which was about a year ago actually, has been around 17% annualized, so quite significant. And it's all Bitcoin backed, all live on Bitcoin L1 and Bitcoin L2, and yeah, just thriving, and for you to check out today.
Fantastic. Yeah, I just brought a few of those screenshots and websites up on the screen for people at home. So you're up to 5.5 million total backing now. You so excited about that growth? Do you want to talk about sort of what's next and where you on the roadmap and where you see you go from here?
Yeah, I'm obviously excited about the growth. Excited about how the ecosystem is developing. There's a lot more growth that needs to happen. 5.5 million for a stablecoin is not that much. It's a good base, but there's a lot more room to expand. We just launched a completely new website, so it's revamped UI. There is a lot of transparency on the website now, so you can go to the dashboards. You can see where USDH or where the backing assets are held, where the positions are held. You can see the historical data on the APYs, and really a lot of different elements of what you want to know about the protocol, and all just served to you on a beautiful UI with a couple clicks. So do check it out. We have a lot more coming, and we'll talk about that. But that's what just launched like a couple of weeks ago.
And so with the backing and collecting that funding rate on the centralized exchanges, I guess that's a different route to others. So what was the reason that you went down that route? And in future, as Bitcoin DeFi expands with decentralized perps, I assume you'll be open to that as well.
Yeah, so generally, obviously, a big fan of decentralization and everything that happens in DeFi. But if you look at the futures markets today in crypto, they are mainly on centralized exchanges. Open interest is probably 80-90% on centralized exchanges. Is actually changing a lot with the hyperliquid coming online in the last 3 to 6 months. But the main markets are still on centralized venues. We are building a stablecoin that can scale to multi-billion-dollar market cap, and if you want to do that, you can really only do it with a CeFi DeFi approach, and that's why we chose that route. But in the future, as we see hyperliquid and hopefully other DeFi perp markets come online, we want to transition our trading to them. But you really need more than one. You really need a couple, so you can actually run secure risk management and not dependent on one single platform for the product.
And options as well going forward. Is that another option, pardon the pun, for centralized and decentralized, for maybe getting a yield from a different place, stabilizing that yield and all that type of thing?
Yeah, so the USDH product doesn't use options. We just use vanilla perp markets. It's a very simple strategy. We're just 1x short on the Bitcoin markets. There's no leverage. There's very little risk. It's delta neutral. There's no exposure to price. The option side of things is very interesting. We had a previous product where we employed option strategies. We might launch more products in the options markets, but USDH will always be just a vanilla short futures market with a spot long position.
Yeah, I remember we touched on options last time, but as you say, sometimes the simpler mechanics, the better way to go. Hey,
100%.
so what's next on the roadmap? And I think you guys raised some funding as well last time we spoke to accelerate development and stuff. So how's that all going?
Yeah, we closed our seed round in January. We raised $2.5 million from some of the VCs in the space, a lot of the angels across the whole ecosystem. So very excited for that, to have those backers on board. And now it's really about scaling Bitcoin DeFi, where we have the building blocks in place. We have the DEXs, we have the money markets, we have the stable coins, we have yield products. And now the big push that is coming, it's really building. I think it's not really apparent yet, but there's going to be a massive push for Bitcoin DeFi to become a multi-billion-dollar ecosystem on Stacks on Bitcoin L1. So we're really excited to be part of that. We're integrating across the whole ecosystem. So if you want to, for example, trade perp futures on a decentralized market today on Stacks, you can do that on Velar. All the pairs are USDh denominated, and as you trade on those markets, you actually earn a yield. So you can trade futures, Bitcoin, Stacks futures on Velar, and if you use USDh as collateral to do that, you earn yield on that collateral, which is really cool because on a lot of centralized exchanges, you can't even do that. So it's like a better user experience in some ways than on centralized venues. We're integrated with the biggest money markets on Stacks, Zest, and we're really looking to expand those integrations across the Stacks ecosystem, but also the Bitcoin L1 ecosystem. And then this is kind of a somewhat alpha. I haven't really talked about this publicly. We're working on a Bitcoin yield product that is coming to market hopefully in the next 3 to 6 months. Not a lot of details there yet because it's still under wraps and stealth, but I can tease it here.
Fantastic news. So what we've seen a lot of, like a year or two ago, we saw a lot of raises for other Bitcoin L2s and other products, Botanics Labs, and we've covered a lot of this stuff. So how do you see the best chance of scaling? Like, do you see that the Stacks tech is really developing and that's the leading candidate, or there's good people toying with ZK stuff on base layer? So how do you see that unfolding?
Yeah, it's a great question. I think that we're still in that phase where there's a lot of experiments happening, mainly behind the scenes. A lot of them haven't hit the market yet, but there's a handful, maybe 10 really talented teams, very well funded, that are building out this tech and are coming to market from the conversations that I'm having in the next 3 to 6 months. Those are the Botanics of the world, Mezzo, a number of other ones, that are all building somewhat different solutions to the scaling problem. I think the CK rollup is probably the gold standard, and the BitVM2 and what folks are building there is really, really exciting. And I'm have a very close eye on that, and we're talking to the teams to be in those ecosystems when they come online. Stacks is really well positioned because they have been building in the Bitcoin DeFi or Bitcoin L2 ecosystem for many, many years. Probably 2017. Munib was building on Bitcoin in 2013, I think. Yeah. So it's been like over 10 years. Yeah. Stacks has been live for about 3.5 years. And so there's a real community. There's a real builder community. They're all my friends. They're really close. These people have been building and are still building before it was really in vogue, right? Yeah. Like building on Bitcoin really took off with the Ordinals white paper or the Ordinals boom. And that was like last year. Is that right?
Yeah. Maybe 2 years ago.
Yeah, 2 years ago, right? It seems much longer. Yeah, so 2 years ago, and so there's a lot more momentum now, but Stacks already has that base build, and the tech is really good. Designer Nakamoto upgrade happened, so now we have really fast blocks on Stacks. Blocks are actually 5-10 seconds, and reliably so. There is now SBTC in place with a distributed signer set, where you can peg in and peg out Bitcoin and it go in and out of Stacks. That now has 3,000 Bitcoin, and soon to have 5,000 Bitcoins in the ecosystem. And so all the building blocks are there, right? We have Bitcoin finality, we have SBTC, we have fast blocks, we have a great user experience, and we have all the DeFi protocols in place that we need to really build a thriving ecosystem. So we're really excited about Stacks. I'm really excited about Bitcoin, building on Bitcoin in general, and Stacks is the leading force in that, and that's why we're building there. But there's going to be a lot of very interesting experiments coming online. So I think a lot of people are kind of disillusioned with Bitcoin DeFi to some degree because it's always takes longer than people think. Yeah. And just building tech is difficult, especially this kind of quite sophisticated tech with the limitations that you have on Bitcoin. But I think it's unrightly so that they're not bullish, because there's a lot of cool stuff happening, and it will become clear, I think, in the next 6 months.
Yeah, you mentioned you're good, well integrated in the Stacks community and whatnot. I think a few months ago, particularly, it's always when price falls hard, people get more emotional or whatnot. But it felt there was a bit of a disconnect between maybe the users and the Stacks community, and maybe the developers and Manib and that type of thing. Whereas I feel like it's changed, and there's kind of been constant good news the past few weeks. Did you sort of feel you understand what I'm saying about that disconnect, and feel like what's the direction, where are we going here? But I feel like everything is actually working fine behind the scenes now. Or what are your thoughts?
Yeah, that's a good observation. I think that price drives sentiment to a very large degree, and so the last, whatever it was, 3 months has been quite difficult price wise across the whole ecosystem, and a lot of deflation of narratives, and a lot of negative price action, and at the same time, Stacks has delivered on its promises of Nakamoto and SBTC, but maybe a little bit slower than expected. Maybe some people thought it would look differently, and so there's been, I would say, somewhat of a crisis in the ecosystem, which obviously is always either really bad and leads to something not ending to a large degree, or not moving forward productively, but it's also an opportunity to redefine things and reinvigorate the right people and the right causes. And I think the latter has happened. I think there was a realignment across the ecosystem, also with us builders and across the Stacks core entities. And so I think there's a clear communication channel. There's a clear roadmap that is being built out. I think a lot of that has been hinted at, but not fully communicated. I think it's probably coming in the next couple of months. And so I'm generally very excited about it. I think there's a lot of really good things to look forward to. And the ecosystem is stronger now than it was before.
And I guess similar question with Vela. That's one where the price has really been hurting, and they do have a lot of tokens still locked up, but I think that unlock is over a many multi-year period, which is fine. But you mentioned it before, so you're still super bullish on their tech, because it's kind of Vela and Alex Labs, and Vela seems to be the one that has the most tech and that type of thing. So you're still excited about all that ecosystem, and the devs have got exciting things coming, because that's one there are a few people have kind of asked me what's going on with Vela. The price is beat up, but then they're definitely the one that seem to be integrating and doing plenty of cool stuff still.
Yeah, I mean, I'm a fan of what the Vela team has built so far, and we're integrated with the perp decks and also their normal decks. And I think generally the tech that they've built is very good. And we'll see how the market takes it, and how it's reflected in the token price or not. That's all, it's anybody's guess.
Yeah. Any thoughts on Alex Labs and some of the tech they're doing, or you've got good communication with them as well? Or?
Yeah, I mean, Alex is always on the forefront of building cool tech on the AMM side. I think they have some interesting new AMM clarity contracts coming out in some time. I don't know exactly when. Yeah. And so I'm looking forward to using that.
Awesome. Anything else in the Bitcoin DeFi space, Stacks space, that you want to mention? I think with the increased cap, as you said, I think Stacks will become the leader by total value locked, and that always starts to get the people that are looking for fundamentals in the data a bit excited, and then this kind of growth all feeds off each other, hopefully. But yeah, any other thoughts in general?
Yeah, I think that the money markets are scaling up. Our tech can be used for a critical component that is a bottleneck in generally of scaling money markets, which is the unsexy element of liquidations. If you want to scale a money market, you need to be able to liquidate any bad positions. And so our infrastructure, since you can mint USDH with Bitcoin and SBTC, we can actually act as the liquidator for these money markets, and we can do so by, and this is the important part, by tapping into centralized exchange liquidity. So you can run liquidations through Hermetica smart contracts, the minting contracts, at multi-$100 million size, even $1 billion size, with very minimal slippage. And so that integration that we have launched with Zest allows Zest to take on a lot more stablecoin liquidity to be lent out. There's actually now there's a couple, I think $600,000-700,000 of USDH available to be borrowed at 2%. So it's like basically free right now on Zest. And so I'm really excited about that use case scaling and really being built out, because obviously borrowing against your Bitcoin is a huge use case. Most folks don't want to sell their core Bitcoin stacks. And us being able to support that ecosystem in that way, I'm really excited about, and help with liquidations for money markets.
Yeah, and there's plenty of ways to earn points on Zest. And do you want to talk about Hermetica and points and token plans and how that sort of fits into the roadmap?
Yeah, we have our first point season ended with the launch of our Hermetica 2.0 app. We currently don't have any points, but they are set to come back at the right moment in time. Yeah. And there certainly are plans to decentralize the ecosystem, the protocol, and that will come hopefully, sometimes later this year, maybe early next year. It really depends on a number of factors, like the market, like the right integrations, that are all planned and ready to be executed.
Fantastic. And I do like the point you were saying about the large liquidations as well, because that is kind of the problem that MakerDAO, Athena, Liquidity, and those kind of haven't been able to solve yet in the world of ETH DeFi.
Yeah, it is obviously it's a major element that is needed for scaling DeFi, and since we have the infrastructure already in place for it on stacks, we can use it now, which is great, which allows the whole ecosystem to scale.
Cool. And any thoughts on Bitcoin in general? I kind of feel like we've gone through this, mid-cycle correction. There's lots of good political news, so many talks of strategic reserves. When Trump's talking about how we want to be the leader because otherwise China, this is something I predicted years ago that, one isn't going to let the other dominate, whether it's mining or strategic reserve between these superpowers, and then it becomes a rush. So, yeah, what are your general thoughts on Bitcoin?
Yeah, I'm a big fan of Nassim Taleb saying, don't tell me what you think about the market, show me your portfolio. I can tell you that I'm very long Bitcoin, actually, right now, on spot and somewhat with leverage. I trade options, so I'm long dated call options for the rest of the year. Yeah. I think that I'm a big proponent or believer in that really global liquidity is what driving price. Narratives drive the short term, liquidations drive the really short term, but the tides, the big moves are driven by liquidity. And if you look at all the different liquidity measures, be it M2 or others, it's pointing up. And it's pointing up significantly, especially for the next 3 to 6 months. And so I think there's no reason to be bearish, except if you listen too much to the news, which is not a great thing to do if you want to make money in the market.
Yeah, absolutely. That chart that has been doing the rounds of M2 money supply is pointing us towards over 150,000 by the end of this year, which is exciting to see as well. Well, mate, that's been a great catch up. Any final thoughts on anything crypto related, or yeah?
No, I mean, in general, I think it's fundamental season. I think meme coins and altcoin and different projects will always play a role, but I think we're getting now into a time of market adoption, also with the administration in the US being very pro crypto, where we can see real businesses with real revenue, with real users that can actually do something significant and change the world. And that I'm really excited about. That's what we're building for. And that's, I think we can see now coming online. And I think it's going to drive a lot of the narrative in the coming, in the rest of this cycle. And yeah, other than that, it was great to see you, Alex. And if anybody wants to come check out Hermetica, you can go to Hermetica I. We have a newsletter. You can sign up for that. Follow us on X. And stake some stablecoin, earn some yield, and check it out on the dashboard how it all works. And yeah,
fantastic. Cheers. All the links to follow Jakob, Hermetica, and the website and app will be down below in the description. So appreciate your time, mate. We'll have to have you back on again in future.
Absolutely. Cheers.
Cheers, guys.